Well, never mind all that stuff, because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered. Yeah, I know, amazing. But that means it's time for...
Living your life and you're feeling low. You don't know what is true. You don't know what's true. So you quick flip through the channels to watch Sunny on The View. Oh my God, the stuff she says is dumb. Where the hell they get this woman from? She's a host who's always crass and lame, with lots of nonsense to proclaim.
The moment Sunny Hostin unraveled, the air in the studio turned electric. You could feel the tension pressing in from every direction. This wasn't simple confusion. It was Greg Gutfeld striking with surgical accuracy. Every line hit fast and clean, lighting up the room like a chain reaction. What should have been a routine segment spiraled into a live breakdown, unfolding in real time. Long-time viewers sensed something coming, but no one was ready for how hard it landed. When the cameras finally cut, the silence felt heavier than anything said on air.
On The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Those hens are always clucking. They get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, and then I get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, except on purpose. But every now and then, one of those dingbats inadvertently says something that reveals modern liberal thought so perfectly it deserves further study. You know, like a weird serpent that washed up on the beach and you want to poke it with a stick.
Sunny didn't just stumble, she snapped. This went far beyond the usual awkward moments viewers expect when conversations drift off script. This was raw, unfiltered collapse, broadcast live for millions. It wasn't chaos for chaos' sake. It was the result of Greg exposing more contradictions in minutes than the show had faced in years. The instant he spoke, the mood cracked. Her polished confidence shattered faster than anyone anticipated, creating a moment you couldn't look away from.
So, Sunny, I bet you haven't been in a supermarket since COVID for about 3 years.
I haven't been in a supermarket since COVID. For about 3 years. That's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs. You know those big Bounty towels you don't want to carry.
Those from Costco.
Somebody else goes.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, I'm an but at least I tip.
Before we go further, hit that subscribe button. The episode opened like countless others on The View. Smiles ready, agreement assumed, the familiar echo chamber humming along. Sunny took her usual role as the table's legal authority, delivering statements packed with confidence but driven more by emotion than logic. The arguments sounded bold, but beneath the intensity were recycled talking points dressed up as certainty. That's why the moment she faltered hit so hard. Once the spotlight shifted, there was nowhere left to hide.
Sin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took.
For anyone unfamiliar with The View, imagine a political comment section brought to life under studio lights. Opinions fly, confidence stays sky high, and depth rarely survives scrutiny. Sunny fits perfectly into that rhythm, until someone actually challenges her. Then counterpoints turn into conflict, emotion overwhelms logic, and nuance disappears completely. What should be conversation becomes confrontation. The show rewards certainty over accuracy, volume over clarity, and that environment set the stage for an explosion that felt inevitable.
Oh, I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was. My family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Everything changed the moment Greg Gutfeld entered the discussion. He disrupted the show's predictable rhythm with an energy built on exposing contradictions instead of smoothing them over. Greg doesn't rely on rehearsed sound bites, he says what others avoid. Sunny walks straight into it, seemingly forgetting sarcasm still exists. As Greg calmly lined up her conflicting statements, her argument began collapsing under its own weight. She demanded calm discussion while tossing extreme labels herself, a balance that only works when no one pushes back. Greg pushed back. Hard. Example after example, he showed how outrage suddenly turns into context when her allies are involved. With each point, the pressure grew, and long-ignored contradictions became impossible to defend.
I'm going to milk this till the end of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm going to go, slave owner! Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Do you think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay.
Greg laid everything out with relentless calm, exposing how Sunny's outrage switches on and off depending on who's talking. Conservatives challenge her. Instant fury. Allies twist basic principles. Suddenly it's excuses and vague justifications. The contrast couldn't have been clearer, and Greg never raised his voice. He let the pattern speak. Sunny has long demanded accountability while protecting those she agrees with. A double standard so obvious it bordered on parody. As Greg methodically spelled it out, the segment stopped feeling like debate and started feeling like a live unmasking. The audience reacted not because an argument was shouted down, but because the exposure was undeniable.
Women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing.
But inside that studio, loyalty often beats logic. Greg could have laid out a full timeline of Sunny's past statements and the response would have been the same. Dismissal wrapped in moral superiority. Sunny, who spent years judging others from that table, cracked the moment her own words were held up to scrutiny. The shift was jarring. The confident enforcer suddenly looked overwhelmed. It wasn't subtle. It was emotional whiplash unfolding live. Authority flipped into vulnerability in seconds. The irony was impossible to miss. Someone so comfortable calling others out was completely unprepared to be challenged herself.
Behar gets racism after all. She's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Brian Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast. So Scott had to deal with Sunny Hostin and her typical self.
Instead of addressing the contradiction head-on, the moment was reframed as something personal, fragile, emotional, off-limits. Whoopi Goldberg stepped in, steering the conversation away from facts and toward feelings, implying consistency mattered less than intention. The focus shifted from logic to comfort. Behind the scenes, the reaction treated Sunny's breakdown like a crisis, not what it really was, a public figure struggling under accountability. This wasn't a personal attack, it was a challenge to reasoning. But the response made one thing clear: criticism itself had become unacceptable.
Like this chick, we didn't think it was the best thing that could have happened to us. Although it did get Joy Behar to wear a mask. You make me sick. It's funny, her being named Joy is like me being named ugly.
Greg never yelled. He never insulted. He simply said what everyone could suddenly see. And Sunny reacted like the truth hit her physically. The contrast was brutal. Greg stayed composed and precise while Sunny scrambled to hold onto her composure. Within minutes, social media erupted. Clips went viral, not because of chaos, but because viewers watched confidence crumble under pressure. Memes followed instantly, mocking contradictions and highlighting how moral certainty disappears the moment it's tested.
Did you watch the whole thing or just the parts that I sent you?
I watched it. Obviously, just the parts that you said. Did I watch a whole episode of The View?
No woman can do that unless you're stupid. But
I have a job.
Here's the thing. How can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying that nothing has progressed? Then it's on them.
Right. I just wish I could have, would have watched if I could, would have been Joy Behar watching that.
Yes.
And being like, I totally made the right call. It was not an accident that they had him there on her day off when she was, presented herself as the, expert.
Just like that, The View stopped feeling like a serious discussion and started looking like a live comment section under studio lights, where disagreement equals attack and anyone breaking the script becomes the villain. The chaos wasn't loud, but it lingered. The show rushed to rewrite the story in real time, framing Sunny's breakdown as protection against personal attacks instead of what it actually was, exposure. Suddenly, pointing out inconsistencies became morally dangerous. Accountability turned into something that required immediate emotional shielding, even as the truth remained obvious to anyone paying attention.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist.
When logic finally poked its head into the conversation, the whole setup wobbled, and that day, it collapsed. Sunny's reaction didn't come out of nowhere. After years of emotional arguments stacked on shaky reasoning, it felt inevitable. And right on cue, the narrative flipped. Sunny shifted into an emotional monologue about growth, vulnerability, and reflection, an attempt to transform a public unraveling into something inspirational. Her voice softened. Emotion took center stage. Accountability quietly exited. The table followed along, framing the moment as bravery instead of breakdown.
More time to talk. And I thought Will Smith wouldn't let a black man finish. If her IQ was half as high as her smugness, she'd be Einstein. And later it got weird after Whoopi Goldberg asked a question and Sunny chimed in.
Meanwhile, Greg didn't need to do anything. No escalation. No interruptions. His calm alone amplified the contrast, emotion versus accuracy. Sunny's meltdown became a textbook example of what happens when exaggerated certainty collides with basic accountability. For years, she built her image on outrage and moral confidence. But one calm challenge cracked it wide open on live television. It wasn't just awkward, it exposed how fragile the entire approach really is. Instead of reflection, the show doubled down on comfort and validation. Still, the moment stands as a reminder. Hypocrisy always collapses eventually. You can only stretch outrage so far before reality pushes back. This time, it happened in front of millions, and viewers didn't see debate. They watched confidence fall apart under the weight of its own contradictions.